Hello! On this week's episode of Horribly Edited Videos, I want to address another really common question I get pretty often, and that is, how do I make a stronger bond and connection with the animals in my care? Now, this is a really excellent question. It doesn't have a super easy answer. That is April's shed behind me, by the way. The approach and result of developing a bond with an animal like a snake can vary considerably because uncommon opinion is snakes have their own individual personalities. So oftentimes it depends on that, but here are a couple of tips that I have found work well in approaching these animals regardless of their personality type. Now, if you're working with a choice-based animal like Aries, Aries is one of our super dark reticulated pythons. He is 3 years old and he is incredibly friendly, so he makes choice-based handling super easy. So my approach with him is to simply open the door and let him out to explore. He doesn't like to hide a lot, he just likes to climb and is curious. Now, one thing I will say when working with an animal like Aries, who's very social and very choice-based, he doesn't really like being physically handled a ton. He will tolerate it. He's actually really good about it. He's one of our regular outreach animals. However, when I'm at home just hanging out with him, I approach him based on his behavior, what he wants, what he is needing in his exploration style. So I don't hold him a ton unless he's having a particularly clingy moment, which does happen once in a while, but he's choice-based, makes him really easy to get out, really easy to interact with. Yeah, that's Aries. Something I found really effective is when I have my animals out, even if they are choice-based like Aries, I will let them just kind of do their thing. I'll sit on the floor and make myself accessible to them on their terms, and they seem to really enjoy it, and more often than not they will come check me out. They will sniff, they will climb around. They're curious, thinking animals. So just kind of sitting and being patient and letting them explore you on their terms can go a really long way to building some trust with them while they're out and about and exploring. See, now he's just utilizing my lap to climb and explore. Where you going, buddy? Just never know what they're gonna get up to. He's literally out here proving me wrong. Just like, what? I want to be held. I want to sit in your lap. Sir, I love this dude. He's a really amazing snake. He's 100% good boy. Now, in the case of a shyer snake, like Chihaya, now she has come out of her shell a little bit more. Hi. It's also getting close to feeding time, so she is a little bit more stocky, making sure that whatever's coming into her house isn't food. Hi, honey pie. Can I focus on your face? So she's a little bit more shy. She's not quite choice-based in the terms of coming out on her own onto like an arm or a hand that's being offered her. She will, however, come out on her own when it's onto something like the retic tree. So something I will do to kind of help encourage her to come out on her own while also addressing and approaching her on her terms and utilizing her preferences is I'll just bring that retic tree over, set it by her open door, and just hang out. I'll either hang out at my desk, which is a few feet away, or hang out on a stool right next to it and just let her do her thing. And she is slowly becoming more and more friendly, but she's just taking a little bit more time. She's a little bit shyer. She's another one of my retics. She doesn't really like being handled or held a ton. She will tolerate it, like I said, just like Aries will tolerate it, no problemo, but she prefers to kind of move about at her own leisure. I mean, who among us doesn't? All right, so working with choice-based animals, super easy. Retics are pretty friendly for the most part. Are you hanging out on your Ursa? You're silly. So Ursa is another choice-based baby. Hi, honey pie. She tends not to run away when her glass is open and will very often just come out on her own. But what if you have an animal that's a little more shy and flighty and isn't willing to come out on their own? How do you develop that trust and that bond with them in that case? Oh my gosh, I'm trying to close the door. Can I close it? You're between the snake plant and the snake. Can you get your face in there? That's the other thing too, is I'm letting her kind of touch her nose on my hand and move away from it instead of me like either booping her nose or touching her tail, because that just startles them and breaks trust. So just being patient and letting them go in kind of essentially on their own. Now, I did talk a little bit more in depth about kind of hands and fingers and enclosures. So if you want to check that out, I have a video called, I believe, Hands and Fingers and Enclosures, oh my, or something like that. I'll see if I can't link it to this video in case you want to check it out. Hi, Starburst. Another choice space baby. She's very friendly. All right, let's shift over to Rhiannon. Rhiannon is one of our shyest, if not the most shy, out of our Aries and Stella pairing. So I want to show you, she will be at her glass once in a great while, but if I open the glass, she does not want to come out. So I don't want to not work with her because she doesn't want to come out on her own. So instead, I simply, hi honey pie. So she's very shy. So I go in and let her know that I'm here. Sometimes she'll lift her head up to sniff, but I'll just gently place my hand on her body and lift her out gently. Come on, sweetie. Oh, she's trying to go underneath another hide. Come here. Come here. So this is Rhiannon. I'm trying to do this with one hand, which is a little more challenging. She's really pretty, but she's a little bit more shy. So she'll stay kind of balled up like that. Well, you're not right now. Are you being a good girl? I worked with her a little bit last night, so maybe it's paying off already. But I will just hold her and let her have a kind of low stimulation, positive interaction, and slowly she'll start kind of exploring. Oftentimes I'll just place her on my shoulder and she'll just calmly sniff around, try and get to the top of my head, all of that stuff, curious retic stuff, and then I will wait to put her back in her enclosure until she has dropped into that more calm, curious state of mind. Now that approach, that kind of working with the animals little bits at a time and ending on a positive note, is a very common practice, especially if you're working with a little more shy or a little flightier animal. So that's definitely kind of a tried and true way of interacting with them. Again, whoop, she's trying to make a break for it. Again, I try and work with them on their terms as much as possible. Because these guys do get bigger, I tend to go in and get them out if they just continually are not interested. But I take my time working with them. She's trying to climb on my other arm, and let them explore where they want to explore and just take it nice and slow. I'll also tend to keep them out a little bit longer. So standard, I think, is like 15 minutes at a time. I will keep them out, 30 minutes upward to 90 minutes at a time, as long as they're not getting stressed, and just ensure that I'm able to end it on a positive note. I also have Raiden on the retic tree right now. He's a good boy. He is also, he's a little less shy than Raiden, that is Raiden. He's a little bit less shy than Rhiannon, but he's still a little on the shy side. So she's actually climbing on the tree too. So I'm gonna let her zoom around and, not on my desk, come here. All right, I'm using a very makeshift tripod in the form of my laptop, but this is Rhiannon again. I still have her out. She is, like I said, just probably our most flighty baby. So as she moves, I am working to just treadmill her through my hands. I'm sure you have seen this before. Lots of other channels share this technique of just letting them kind of get it out of their system, essentially. And eventually she'll calm down and drop into more curious mode instead of trying to get away. When you have a snake consistently trying to like treadmill through your hands, that's usually a sign that they're trying to get away. So if you can let them kind of process that and realize there's really nothing to get away from, that will help them drop into that curiosity mode, and you can start developing a little bit more trust with them. So she stopped pacing as much. Hi, honey. If The other thing I found with retics is if they do the reverse retic, they move backwards through your hand, it's usually an indication they don't really want to be held or handled. That's when I'll attempt to put them in a retic tree and just not push it with them. In the case of Rhiannon, because she is that little more shy and flighty and we're working on getting her calmed down, I'm not going to let her on the retic tree quite yet because she just tries to flee off of it. I want her to be able to stop breathing so hard. She's breathing pretty fast right now, and calm down to the point of being able to be curious. And she's already slowed down a little bit. Girl, you want to see those tongue flicks? Hers are a little fast and short still, another indication that she's on a heightened alert, a little bit higher stress level. So still working to bring that down a little bit. But just be patient with them, they'll get there. Other indications of an animal being stressed can be that flighty mode, heavier breathing, short tongue flicks, or no tongue flicks at all can also be a sign of stress. So just keep an eye out for those behaviors and respond to them accordingly. Now, another thing that I do is if they are curious about climbing around like my neck or the top of my head or even my face, I just let them. I want to let them explore what they're curious about instead of constantly redirecting them to where I want them to go. Obviously, I'm not going to let them go anywhere like dangerous for them, but if she wants to go over my shoulder, I'll let her go over my shoulder. Just that can make a big difference too, instead of always trying to make them go where you want them to go, letting them explore on their terms. Now, just so you know what to look for in a snake that is chillaxed and curious, periscoping is a good sign of that. That is a sign of them being curious about their surroundings and wanting to see what's around them. Another indication is breathing rate and body tone. So I talked about heightened breathing rate when they are stressed, and they'll often have a more tense muscle tone as well. Just like humans, when snakes get stressed, they tense up their muscles because they're dropping into that sympathetic nervous system and trying to decide whether to fight, flight, or freeze. He is definitely none of the above. One last thing I want to mention is whenever I'm interacting, look at Dad back there being ridiculous. Whenever I'm interacting with an animal, especially if it's an animal that's a little more shy, I am very mindful about my approach to them when they are out. So Rhiannon decided to climb on the tree. She's being pretty chill. So if I want to make contact with her again, I do the same thing that I do when I'm approaching her in her enclosure, and I'll just show her where I'm at first rather than just going in and picking her up. And I do that with all of my animals, whether it's a kind of gentle connection a little bit lower down their body, mid-body, or offering the palm of the hand like this when I know that they're not in food mode. And the goal here is to hopefully let them make first contact, and that goes such a long way in creating trust with these animals. Are you gonna? Yes, that's what you want, is them making first contact. It makes such a difference in their interaction. Good job, babe. It almost immediately drops them into curious mode when they make first contact instead of me going in to contact them. Pretty awesome. Good job, sweetie. You're doing such a good job. Look at those curious tongue flicks. She's still a little cautious. Look at her go. Good job. Something else you can look for too is if you have, at least with retics, they like to get a lot of information about their surroundings. So oftentimes when I have my retics out free roaming, I will see them do kind of casual yawns. It is not RI related. The reason that snakes will often yawn when they're out exploring something new is there's a lot of sensory organs inside of their mouth. It gets more direct contact to their Jacobson's organ, which provides them a lot of information. That's actually what they're tongue flicking for, is to get a lot of information about their surroundings. So those longer kind of consistent tongue flicks are a really good indication that they're starting to relax as well. But that gives them information to process through their Jacobson's organ. So a yawn is kind of like a mega tongue flick. It just gives them a lot of information at once. So if you see your snake yawn when it's out exploring, as long as you know it's not RI, which stands for respiratory infection related, then more than likely that's actually a really positive sign of them being curious. Look at you. I'm so proud of you, sweetie pie. I don't care what anyone says. I feel like they appreciate praise when they're doing a good job. And just a quick summary to build trust with the animals that I currently have in my care. My go-to methods have been interacting with them on their terms and making sure you end things on a positive note and responding to behavior accordingly. So if you have a super stressy snake, don't push it with them. Help them work through it by providing them a nice, calm environment to settle into, and eventually they'll realize, oh, there is nothing to be afraid of, and they'll start exploring a little bit more. So she's been out for about 20 minutes at this point, and she's started to relax and explore a little bit more. That's actually one of the main reasons I like handling them with my hands versus using snake hooks, because it gives me a little bit more direct information in terms of their stress level, because I can really pick up on the body tone, that muscle tone that they're sharing. So yeah, anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. We have all of the information for affiliate codes and Patreon and all of that stuff in the description below. So check that out if you feel so inclined. Otherwise, oh look, a periscope. Oh, that's exciting. Good job. I think that's the first time she's periscoped when I've had her out. That's cool. Anyway, I'll see you next time.